Good evening and welcome to this episode of Ann Arbor Tonight at Home. I'm Zach Damon. We have a great show for you coming up. We have interview guest Valentina Castellani Quinn. We have comic guest Chris Young. Yes, it's the holiday season and Kim Kardashian was recently spotted in Los Angeles holiday shopping for her kids. The only problem was she was also mistaken for Barbie and forcibly gift wrapped. Yeah, I was at my family home recently, helping to set up the holiday decorations, when the delivery man who was walking up to the house kept pointing to the window. And when I asked him what he was referencing, he said, "Well, who's Leon Leon?" Yeah, when I was growing up, batteries were not an uncommon Christmas gift, but neither was a card that said toys not included. Yes, this holiday season, the post office is going to be taking extra caution. So any package marked fragile, they're going to just toss it underhand. We have a great show for you coming up, so please stay tuned. Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome back to this episode of Ann Arbor Tonight at Home. I am so excited to welcome our guest. She is the producer and president of Quinn Studios Entertainment, and she is the director of media for the Bellagraph Media Group. I am pleased to welcome Valentina Castellani. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me in your lovely show. I always support a big and smaller show because we all started somewhere. So it's lovely to be here. I just got back from Europe, so there is so much in my mind right now that is circulating. I was in Europe for 2 months working with Bellagraph Nova Group, which is an international group just merged together in July, and we launched this amazing financial group that is basically covering 31 companies around the world into the entertainment business. So it's been quite a journey and an adventure. I arrived at the end of August when Europe was still happy and open again after the lockdown of the past winter. And I left just about 2 weeks ago with a very grim, desperate Europe all in lockdown. However, I managed to do a lot of things in Europe, and I'm very happy, very proud, and excited to talk about.
Oh, and phenomenal. And of course, Valentina, I mean, what you've done, your body of work in terms of giving back, not only to the great in motion picture industry globally as well as in Hollywood, but also what you've done as far as humanitarian work and giving back and bringing to the forefront of thought these issues that are important to people, I think is just amazing. And yes, so grateful that you were able to get to Venice, the wonderful film festival, the oldest film festival in the world, and showcase some great work that you've done. Well deserved. And yeah, I'm just glad you made it back safely.
Thank you so much. Yes.
And I want to talk about your early years. You were born in Florence, Italy, a beautiful city where your family owned an opera house theater.
Teatro Verdi, from Giuseppe Verdi, the great composer.
Yes. Teatro Verdi, there we go. Since the 1800s, and your grandfather, Riccardo Castellani, was one of the most important producers and distributors of the golden era of Italian cinema. So with that, how did growing up sort of behind the stage and watching operas, plays, and ballets, how did that have a strong influence on you going forward?
Indeed, it had an amazing influence. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here in Los Angeles making films. I grew up around sets and around movie theaters and on the backstage of theaters. An opera theater that was the biggest one that my family owned the Teatro Verdi, that, as you said, has been for 2 centuries in my family, and used to be open to opera, ballet, classic music, plays. So what a wonderful, amazing opportunity I had to grow up exposed to so much creativity, art, and amazing artists and performers, you know. So of course it had just a little bit of an influence on me. And you know, I guess it was written in my universe, in my destiny, that at some point this part of my childhood, of my formation, was coming back and blooming on the opposite side of the globe.
Wow, amazing. Now, I'm interested to know, Valentina, who was your idol growing up, your performance idol? Did you have any?
So many. That's such a question, a difficult question, but all the great, amazing actors in Hollywood. I mean, I remember just spending afternoon at the movie theaters watching the most beautiful film, from the Fellini film, from the Hollywood films. And it's difficult to say, you know, but all the classic from, you know, certainly Anthony Quinn, but Marlon Brando, Bart Lancasters, as well as Marcello Mastroianni and the Fellini films, and De Sica, Rossellini. So the list is so long, and each one of them made me and us in general, I think, look at films and movie making and storytelling in a different way, from a different angle.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And of course, that led you to in 2012, you created Quinn Studios in memory of Francesco Quinn, who is your husband and the son, of course, the Oscar-winning actor Anthony Quinn. And of course, Francesco unfortunately did pass away in 2011. But you know, Quinn Studios is a production company and post-production company, and you continue to uphold the Quinn legacy in the fields of entertainment, the arts, and of course, promoting world peace. But in your own words, what is the Quinn legacy in your own words, and why is it important?
Well, it was there way before me. I think that Anthony Quinn was an amazing actor and an amazing artist, and he brought Mexico to the world.
Well, I grew up in the Depression of Los Angeles in America, and it was a rough period. And of course, I was born in one of the roughest periods in the history of the world, the Mexican Revolution. So it wasn't an easy beginning. But as a matter of fact, I'm very happy that I have survived that period. As a matter of fact, 8 months old when we crossed the border. But, well, in order to escape from the revolution in Mexico, my mother, poor mother, had to hide me in a coal wagon. And I guess I was suffocating to death. And since then, even being in an elevator scares me. Another time, the poor man had bought a little Model T Ford somewhere, and we were very poor, and he finally had managed to buy a Model T Ford, and I was 8 years old, and he was taking me along the countryside for a drive, and we were going around some hills, and suddenly my father says, "Hey, you proud of having a car," and so forth, and see how I drive the car. You must remember I'm talking about a man 27 years old. And I looked at my father and said, "Hey, Pop," I said, "anybody can drive this car." He says, "You think so?" With that, he picked me up and put me behind the wheel and sat next to him. He says, "All right, you drive." And we're going down the hill. After all, we become the fathers, the example set by our own fathers. I mean, it's a very difficult role to play. I've played many parts, 140 parts in my life, but the most difficult role that I have to play is the father role, because I don't know. What is a father supposed to be? What are you supposed to do? Just provide? What do you teach your children? And I think, therefore, that I'm a very difficult father in the sense that I still use the yardstick that my father imposed on me on my own. I wasn't really aware of racial discrimination as such because I simply refused to acknowledge it. I mean, my father didn't, and I just refused to acknowledge it. And I just didn't, to this very day, I mean, if you scratch, I suppose, deep enough, the only real the only thing that I stand for is I hate any kind of racial intolerance. I mean, I just can't put up with it because I don't understand it. I have nothing to. I was a victim of it. I saw other people of different colors being picked on because of their color. And then, of course, I lived in a country where we went to school every day and we were told we were all created equal and so forth, and we had equal. And then I saw around me that it wasn't so. I mean, so you said, well, are you going to live by the bylaws or aren't you going to live by the bylaws? So I think that's been my main drive in growing up, is to see that we live up to our Constitution and so forth. But of course, it created a tremendous conflict in me because the Mexicans were treated as second-rate citizens.
In a country that was hardly known at the time, and a country that deserved attention, you know, and as a leader, not just as an artist, but as a leader, as a human being, I think he did something extraordinary, really proving to a whole world that you could come from a very remote angle of the planet with a very different family and education formation, and yet if you had the talent, the enthusiasm, the courage, you could succeed.
The envelope, please. Thank you. In Hollywood, the winner is Anthony Quinn for Lust for Life.
Ladies and gentlemen, needless to say, I'm deeply moved. At the risk of being misunderstood, I want to humbly say to my fellow nominees that acting has never been a matter of competition to me. I want to say that I was only competing with myself, and I thank you very much for letting me win that fight over myself.
Now, of course, those were different times and more doors were open. However, I think it's always the same. I have to say, in my very small, humble experience, I think that when you really believe in something and in yourself, and you have something to say that is really bursting out of your heart like a rocket, it just makes you find the way, or the way finds you.
Oh, I love that so much. And the arts is important. You must express that. Otherwise, you know, you shrivel up, right? You can't go on.
I think arts are particularly important in this time that is so overwhelmed by politics, by disagreement. The world is divided in two and maybe more, you know, with fear, with doubts. And I think arts is a fantastic way to unite, is a fantastic tool to look at problems, dilemma, and life matters in a different way, that allow us to step down from our ego or preconcept and actually uniting us through the lens of creativity. So in that sense, even when I faced in the film I produced subjects that were particularly difficult to face, with very edgy people, ambassadors, presidents, the Pope, and very edgy matters, I think that through the lens of creativity, we could find a common territory to respect each other and to find union. So I think right now, arts are so important, actually, because we do need union, no matter what is our personal opinion. As a part of humanity, which is one in the end, we do need to be united, at least ethically. We don't need to agree on all politics and all religions, but we can be united through our ethical behavior.
Indeed, wonderful statement. I love it. Of course, that leads me to talk about the films that you make being about, very controversial issues and challenging issues on the forefront. Continue your ethical and international work with Quinn Studios Entertainment, and you have a wonderful film that's in production now, and I'd love to talk about that. So it's on the Native Americans and alternative energies to oil, and it's titled The White Snake, in which the First Nation icon Arvol Looking Horse,
Yeah,
who led
Looking Horse, which is actually the Pope of all Native Americans, of all Stars nations. Many people do not even know that the tribes, the different tribes, do have one leader, and that's Chief Arvol. And I think that first of all, it's the matter, the discussion around the Native American tribes is particularly dear to me, and I take it with great importance and sensitivity. I got close to the Native Americans through oil, funny enough, the opposite, through the industrial world. I just finished some years ago a documentary about Israel and Palestine and the peace in the Middle East. And that got me to meet Ambassador Woolsey in Washington, D.C., and speak about oil, because anyway, peace in the Middle East is definitely very connected with the oil situation. And when we were talking together, I realized that was the subject for a full new film. But as you know me a little bit, and the people that do know me a little bit knows that I don't like to just do films about politics. I like to sparkle some kind of inspiration in the human spirit. So I always look in a documentary as well as a film to hook into emotions, because emotions move us much more than any cause. If emotions are involved, men can climb mountains. And so I realized that I wanted some kind of subject besides oil. And that was the time when 2 years ago, the whole situation with Standing Rock started, and the oil and the pipeline. And I realized then that I wanted to face and revolve this whole subject of the oil and alternative energies through the story of the Native Americans and their sacred lands in the United States, and also in Canada, North and South America. That's how the story started. And when I do this documentary, of course, I go through a lot of research, but I also found that some of the best guidance is into being there, be with these people. And so I took my little crew that by now knows me very well, and we went at Standing Rock in the middle of a storm, actually.
Oh my gosh.
And just started to interview people, to sink into this reality that was completely foreign to us, and is still very foreign to many Americans, and especially to the entire world. I realized through this documentary that many people don't even think that the Native Americans are still existing. They think it's a product of some Buffalo Bill Hollywood film. And when I tell them, no, they have their teepees village and everything, they almost like they are there in awe. What do you mean? Are you sure it's not a set or something? No, they're there.
It's reality, yeah.
It's reality, exactly. So I went and spent a week with them, and I saw one speech that Chief Arvol Looking Horse did for the United Nations, and I was very impressed and captured by that. And the intent was to meet him, to really film with him, because I think as the leader of their tribes, their population, it had a lot to say in this situation, especially in feeling that their land was not disrespected from the rest of the world. So through the storm and 30-degree minus,
Oh my gosh.
which was beyond cold, and all the cameras were stopping every 3 minutes. We had to go back in the car and warm and stuff. We got to search and look into these 2,000 teepees in the village.
Wow.
I made friendship with one of these lovely Native American kids that used to bring food and water to the different teepees. And I'm like, I need to meet Chief Orvol. And they were all like, yes, good luck. We don't know which teepee is. Cell phone don't work because we were in the middle of nowhere. And also, we are moving the elders because it's becoming too cold and they were starting to die in their sleeps. So, said that, I'm like, please help me out. And I always believe that the universe opens doors to you when you are courageous in front of a great cause. I feel that the universe always open up a door for us. And sure enough, this kid come back to me 5 days later and is like, I got the chief's wife's cell phone, but of course it's not gonna work because you are in the middle of nowhere, but good luck, I got something for you. Yeah. So I started to leave all these messages for the chief, and after 3 days, they finally answer to me while I'm in the hotel 2 hours away from the village. Every night we go back to the hotel. Sure. And Paula, his lovely wife and life companion, says to me, we thank you so much for your interest for the film you're doing and for all the messages, but we are away. And I'm like, oh my God, where are you? No, we are already 6 hours away by car and we're gonna catch up a flight, so another time. And I felt, no, let's stay another day in here. We never know. And sure enough, the day after, in the evening, she calls me back and she's like, Valentina, it's the first time that happened, but we lost our flight. And the chief interpreted this as a sign that he had to meet you. So if you are willing to drive 6 hours in the snow, we will be waiting for you in here. And so that was my meeting with this amazing human being that is Chief Orvol. And since then, of course, we became very good friends. We met many, many times in many occasions. And I always try to help the tribes the way I can. Last time I saw them was last Friday.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, we filmed, we were in Six Nations in Canada, together also with Chief Hill, that is the chief for the Six Nation reservation in Canada. And after that, all the reservations went in lockdown and they're still partially closed. So we are waiting to finish this film. And with the film, there is so much more I want to do with these amazing people. I owe them so much in terms of learning and observing patience, kindness, understanding, spirituality, and so much more.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And, that brings me to my final question. I mean, for those young women and those young youngsters out there that dream of being an artist, whether it's a painter, whether it's a writer, whether it's a dancer, whether it's a fashion designer, whether it's an actress, what words of advice and wisdom do you have for them?
Well, I always like to talk about experience because the words in this case, in terms of advice, the best advice, just like with the kid, is show them. So I always talk about experience, and I'll tell you this, to me, it wasn't, I didn't study for production. I'm born in a family that was made and created around filmmaking and theater and stuff. And then I was with a great artist, Francesco Quinn, that of course brought me even more into that industry. However, I started the Quinn Studio when he died. And I always want to say something. You know, when he died, you know, he died suddenly in front of our kids. And in 2 minutes, my life was destroyed in pieces. All we created together was gone. And I remember in the first months when he died, his reading glasses were still on the bedside table, sitting in there. So I will go to bed and take these glasses in my hand and hold them tight like a handle that would prevent me from falling, because I felt like falling, really falling into the unknown, falling into the dark. So night after night, I would go to bed, take these glasses and hold them tight. And then one day I took these glasses and then I opened my hand and look at them and I put them down. I decided to fall and not be afraid anymore. And from that little, simple, symbolic gesture, all the abundance came into my life. 2 months later, I started to create Queen Studios. And then in a year, we had a film that was candidate from the Oscar to the Oscars. We created this documentary where I had the privilege and the blessing to speak at United Nations, at the US Congress, to meet the Pope, the Dalai Lama, the President of Israel and Palestine, all from that symbolic gesture to not be afraid to fall. And I think that is the biggest teaching that we can have, not be afraid to fall. As a leader, I'm committed to that fall, and in the falling, I hope I can transform it always into flying.
Valentina Castellani, Quinn, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. We're going to take a quick break, folks, and we'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ann Arbor Tonight. Welcome back to Ann Arbor Tonight at Home. Folks, I am so excited to introduce our comic guest for the evening. He has a dry bar comedy special, and you can hear him on radio all across the country. Please give a warm Ann Arbor Tonight at Home welcome for the one and only comic Chris Young. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, thank you very much, Zach. Thanks for having me back on, man. I appreciate it. It's different. We're in quarantine, but it's still fun nonetheless to see all the people out there in the Ann Arbor area.
Absolutely, man. So, you know, this is very interesting times, right, for artists and performers of all kinds. And so, you know, I'm interested, Chris. I mean, you've been in our studio before. You know what the show is like. This is vastly different from you and I sitting on the couch in Ann Arbor in the studio. So, you know, talk about kind of what you've done to press on.
Yeah, well, I actually today I'm wearing, you know, nice pants. I'm at a point at home right now. If it can't be done in sweats, I'm not doing it. But I figured, you know, I'd put the nice shirt on and some pants at least for this to go from the you know, the living room into the stage, I guess, here at the house. Thanks to Zoom backgrounds, man, we can be anywhere that we want to be at this point, right?
Absolutely. And speaking to that point, I mean, with the pandemic and just all the advances in technology and being remote, I mean, have you found yourself doing a lot of remote gigs? And, you know, have you been doing the outdoor gigs that some of the other comics have been doing?
You know, back when at first I did, but lately I haven't. I've done a couple of these, you know, virtual gigs. It's kind of also a little bit different because you're waiting for the person to laugh, but it's not instantaneous. Like when you're there, there's a lag, right? So technology lag.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they're laughing and the technology sort of, you know, glitches and they're like, I'm like, did something happen to them?
Yeah.
Do I gotta wait and we gotta call someone?
Yeah, right.
Is 911 on the way? Did they just, you know, have a seize out laughing or something? But then they come back and technology catches up. So
That's right. That's right. Well, and you know, I think you're a great example, Chris, of the laughter being really the best medicine in this time. And so, you know, during the time of quarantine, I mean, were there any weird cravings you had? I know for me, I was going, man, I haven't had a pizza in a while. I'd like to have one. You know, different things. Can you talk about that?
if there was just weird cravings, I live in an area where there's no Grubhub, no DoorDash, you know, all
Right.
these things. So I have to plan like, okay, we got to go to the big city of like Pinckney for the McDonald's or the Taco Bell or something. You know, so that's it. Have done some, you know, like, all right, we got to call an order in, drive and pick things up like Chinese food and things like that, that you just think, that was easy. I'd just stop and pick it up on the way from home. And now all of a sudden it's like, I have to plan out what I'm going to eat and how I'm going to do it. And we have, you know, have to buy stuff and have it at home. And that's all foreign, I guess. So.
For sure. And, you know, but, you know, good nonetheless, because you get an opportunity to be at home and all that stuff. So talk about this Dry Bar comedy special. How did that come about and what was that like?
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. You fly to Utah, just out in Provo, outside of Salt Lake City. They sort of treat you, you know, really nice. You fly in, it's a whirlwind, record 2 sets, and then hope you put down something good enough for them to produce and put out your half-hour special. And it worked out. It was really fun, great audiences. And like I said, how it came about, I just bothered the guy that books it for like years on end, and finally either it got tired of me or they had someone cancel and they're like, hey, here's this idiot, can he get to Utah, you know, in about 3 days time. So I made it, recorded it, turned out, you know, I think fairly well. It's had pretty good traffic on YouTube and some things, and just enjoyed it. It was fun. You work clean, which I normally do for the most part anyways. And it was just a fun experience.
Nice, man. And tell us, what's the name of the comedy special?
Yep, the comedy special is called Buoyant Man. Buoyant, like I'm buoyant, was a joke that I do in my act. I went scuba diving in Jamaica, and they had to put this, you know, just an inordinate amount of weight on me to get me to sink because they said you're buoyant. So I said that's just a way of them calling me and having a fat joke on me is what it was. So.
Buoyant Man. Yeah.
Yeah, you're buoyant man. That's it. So
there you go.
So it was a fun experience and got to use some good stuff. So
awesome. And then during this time, I mean, especially now that we're at home, do you find yourself writing more?
I have written some stuff. I'm trying to keep it not just, you know, all towards this period, because I sure hope that the pandemic's going to have just a shelf life. So I'm trying to write what I normally do, things about family, things about friends, stupid stuff I do. A few pandemic jokes that I have, but for the most part, I've tried to keep it away from something that I hope is going to have a short shelf life. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, do you foresee, God willing, once this is all behind us, you know, do you see clubs booming again? Do you see the comic scene, you know, really booming again and people wanting to get out?
I sure hope so. I really do. I think we're going to be in this sort of, restarting process a lot, because it's one of those things. They sort of already tried a few things, opened up, and then they had to close again because we saw the result of what happens when you try to not listen to science and doctors and all those smarter people than comedians. So so I hope that at some point in the next 2 years here that gets built back up. I think people are going to need to get out and laugh after this much pain sort of thing. I mean, I hope we have a little bit of like the Roaring '20s minus all of the other stuff that went on back in the original Roaring '20s afterwards, like the Depression and different things to that. So
Right, but still plenty of bathtub gin, right?
that's bathtub gin and all that good stuff, man. So that my grandma hiding it in her sock, my great grandma, I guess I should say. So
Yeah, good old zoot suit spats and what are those fringe dresses all the ladies
there
wear?
you go, right? Yeah, that's that would be all good. But no, so I'm just hoping that we get, there's always going to be a need for people to laugh, I hope. And hopefully I'm at that point that I'm still around that I can provide some of that.
Right. And for all those artists now who are going through this situation and, it's been such kind of a blow to them because they aren't really sure, how to continue writing or to continue their work and different things, what do you got to say to them?
You have to sort of adapt, right? So everything changes. Like, you also have to be willing to find, and I'll admit, man, there's some days that are rough. Just be prepared to adapt. This is kind of I see it as a marathon, not a sprint, right? So you have to, and I admit, there's some days that are kind of dark. You're missing people, you're missing being that life on stage. I also work in schools, those are closed, so you get some days that are rough, but then you got to find something to laugh at later on, man. It's something stupid you do, something stupid other people do, and just sort of take it like I've had people tell me, well, I'd never want to do one of those online shows, and I'm like, as opposed to live, I'm like, yeah, I understand that, but where else besides an online show do you get to hit someone that you don't like to listen to in the audience, hit mute on them, right? And then keep it going where I get on my computer, not out in the audience. So, yeah. So it's one of those things. I think that for younger guys, younger people, you're going to have valleys, you're going to have up and downs, and this one just happens to be a little bit longer than we thought, but at some point, people need to laugh.
Absolutely. Great points. I mean, definitely, I agree with you. Life goes up and down. And, if everything went in a straight line, it wouldn't be life, right? So,
it wouldn't be fun, but it'd be nice if it wasn't quite, up and demon drop down, but it's all good. So,
yeah, exactly. So for those two that want to, continue to follow what you're doing, watch your next gig, watch your, Dry Bar comedy special. How can they get a hold of you? How can they find you?
Yeah, they can check out my website, chrisyoungcomic.com. Has all of my stuff on it. Also, drybarcomedy.com/Chris Y. We'll get them to my special or go to Dry Bar. Lots of ways, Facebook, Instagram. I'm home right now, so please talk to me.
please, I need
right.
Yeah,
I'm at my house with my my kids and that stuff, and it's one of those things that they want other people to talk to too, I think.
Yeah. Now, are they future comedians? Do you have one of them wanting to take it?
My daughter's pretty quick sometimes. So I don't know. It's one of those things that she can be some of my material, but she can be competition. I don't know. So.
That's right. Spoken like a true comic, right?
Right. Sure. Yeah. Don't get too famous. Either that or make sure Dad can open for you is what I'm saying. So.
Sure. That's funny. Okay. So here's the burning question too, Chris. If you can, you know, situation aside and everything, if there was one comic that you could go on the road with and perform with, who would it be and why?
Yeah, I've always thought, Bill Engvall was always somebody that I really liked the way he related stuff to stupid things people do. You know, that would be one if I could pick one more. Brian Regan's always been clean, funny, and relatable, and guys like that. You know, once again, call me and all that other stuff. I'm home, so I'm sure they are too.
That's right, Brian.
But
Give him a call, right?
Right, Louis Anderson, guys like that. You know, just give me a call. I'm here, so.
That's right. You're available. There you go, for sure.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome, man. Cool. Well, hey, you know, thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate you joining Ann Arbor tonight at home. We definitely wish you all the best, and know you'll continue to climb the comedy ladder. So, Chris Young, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a step ladder. It's not real tall, but no, I appreciate you guys having me here in Ann Arbor tonight, man. It was a pleasure. I enjoyed it the last time I was able to go in studio, and let's get through all this so we can be back in the studio again.
Hey, I like the sound of that, brother, for sure. And definitely wishing you all the best, Chris. You know, Ann Arbor tonight is behind you. So thank you so much. And folks, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ann Arbor Tonight. Good evening, folks, and welcome back to Ann Arbor Tonight at Home. That is our show, and I would love to thank Valentina Castellani Quinn, comic Chris Young, and thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.